Hi, everybody. I'm Lizzie Cutler, and I'm here with Tony Duffy, who is a client who has become a friend. And I've been asked a lot frequently my story and how I came to do the work that I do. And so I had asked Tony, who graciously said yes, if she would have a conversation with me. So it felt a little more authentic and more natural than me going on Instagram saying the classic, "Hi, guys, everyone's been asking me," because that just makes me cringe and I can't do it. So Tony's here with me, and she actually doesn't know a lot of this stuff because we've become friends kind of in like the now and moving forward. But we've been working together for years. So she has a really great mix of knowing what the work is and how it goes, and also has her own questions for me. So Tony, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. And people do ask you, how do you? So you're not lying in that part.
They really do. They really
All
do.
right. So let's get started. Like when we come to you, we figure we trust you, we are completely open to you. How did you learn to do what you do and allow us to feel that comfort?
That's a phenomenal way to ask that, by the way. So I'm gonna kind of cruise through the beginning, and feel free to like ask for any more details that sound juicy. I was living in Tokyo and I was doing a yoga teacher training because my now ex-husband, then fiance, his job sent us to Tokyo, and I didn't want to go there. I didn't have a work visa, so I couldn't work. And I was really into yoga and decided to do a teacher training. I found it was one of two teacher trainings that were in English. And when I got there, I didn't have much to pick from. So it wasn't like I could pick the studio I loved or the teacher I loved. I just jumped in on which schedule worked. And it happened to be a program that was really heavily based on meditation, which I had never done before. So I was learning how to meditate as I was learning how to teach yoga. And through meditation, part of the program was you have to sit for 18 minutes a day. And as I was sitting in meditation, one of our, like a guru, like a guy from our lineage in the yoga training I was doing, came to Tokyo, and he did this thing that's called Shakti Pod, where he walked around the room. We were all sitting meditating. He walked around the room and just put his hand over our head and was doing some kind of energy magic. And it was the very first time that I felt, so I was sitting on a yoga floor and I felt this ball of energy like a magnet go from my pelvic floor straight up to my head, and my whole body started vibrating. And then my eyes were closed. We were in a dark room. It felt like someone had a flashlight in my eye. And as he walked away, like I could hear him walking away. As he walked away, I felt everything sort of settle back in. And at the end of that, I was like, holy shit, what just happened?
Yeah.
And obviously kept meditating. And when I came home from Tokyo, moved back from Asia, I was teaching yoga. I was still meditating, and it like didn't feel as grounded and as juicy and as, I don't know, impactful as it did when I was in Asia. And so I started doing different trainings and working with different people. And as a side note, I also loved, from the time I was a little girl, I loved going to psychics.
Yeah.
And once I was home, for some reason, there were like 3 people that I saw in a row. Like a friend was having a party. And so I went and saw that psychic for 15 minutes. And then I went and did something with my sister, and 3 different psychics all in a row told me that my hands were powerful
Yeah.
and that I needed to do Reiki. Have you ever heard of Reiki?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so I had never done it. I had heard of it and thought it was like kind of woo woo and whatever.
Mhm.
And so I went and did a Reiki training,
Okay.
and didn't really feel much. And in the meantime, I started going through a divorce, and something happened, not because of the divorce, but like as I was moving through the divorce, I don't know if this has any relation or any correlation. It was just the timing of things. I was very raw. Obviously, I was very vulnerable. Like a lot was coming up emotionally. And I would know that someone was going to text me. Like I would think about someone, and then 20 minutes later they would text. Or I was teaching yoga full time at that time, and I would think about a student who I hadn't seen in like 3 months, and then that day she would turn the corner and walk into my room. So
Wow.
like fun stuff like that was happening, but I was like, who cares? Like, who cares that I know who's going to text? And this was all happening while I was doing these Reiki trainings and these other things. So then I remember in the Reiki training, the woman kept saying to me, the woman training me kept saying, doesn't this feel so incredible? Isn't this so amazing? And I was like, I don't feel anything. I don't get it. No disrespect. I don't feel it when you're doing it to me. I don't feel it when I'm doing it to anybody else. And she was like, you need to practice more. So I started practicing more, and I would have people come to my house and lay on my living room floor. And I didn't feel anything when I was moving around their body. And then I would put my hands by the crown of their head. And in Reiki, you're never touching anybody. You're just hovering over. And I would start seeing stuff in my head. And I was like, that's trippy and that's weird. But it was kind of the stuff that I would see. If I said to you, think of a pink elephant, and you see a pink elephant in your head, I would see it like that. So I didn't know if it was just my imagination or what was going on. And so I didn't really pay attention to it. And then I kept practicing, and people would say that when my hand was on their third eye, like over their forehead, that my hands would get too hot and they would ask me to move my hand away, but I didn't feel anything. So it was really trippy, weird. And after I kept doing it for a little bit, then when the visions would come, I had this like, who gives a shit moment where I started telling people what I saw, because I had nothing to lose. So I was like, I see this man with these glasses and this mustache and this face shape, and he's saying, call me. And she's like, that's my dad. Right. And these are people that I didn't really know, because it was always a friend of a friend. So that was kind of crazy, but still nothing that I could really do anything with. And then it started turning into, I went and saw another psychic, and I asked her if she would train me. And when I first went, she said, no. She said, I'm not doing that anymore, and I don't work like that anymore. And sorry, kid. And I was maybe 34 at the time. And then I said, okay, but I want to come back and do another session because I have more questions for you. And when I went back at the end of the session, she said, now I'll train you. I needed to find the yin to your yang, because you're a lot of energy. And I needed to find someone a little more grounded to balance you out. And I was like, I'm not sure if that's an insult or a compliment, but thank you. And okay, let's rock. And so I would sit in this office with this woman, and she was like the exact stereotype of a psychic that you wanted to work with, like wild curls and a husky voice and crystals everywhere. And I was like, yes, it's the authentic experience, and I'm really getting it. And she started trying to teach me how to use the gift. And then it sort of morphed from there, where like, then I was in Park City, and I met up with a friend of a friend who sat down with me. She was supposed to do a 1 or 2 hour session with me. We ended up talking for 4 hours. Wow. And she was like, Lizzie, you can hear. You don't realize that you can hear. And I was like, no. I know that like some people hear spirit and they can see spirit and they can do all these things. I don't have any of that. And she said, yes, you do. And she started showing me how. And I was like, well, I know that, but that's not psychic. That's not anything. And she was like, yeah, babe, it is. You know shit that other people don't know, and you can put words to it where other people don't. So that was kind of a tipping point for me. That was a moment of like, okay, maybe I can do this. And then it just became trial and error. So I would be out with a friend, and she would tell me about a boy that she was dating and had been on like 3 dates with. And I would say like, don't tell me anything else. Show me a picture of him, and let's see if I can read his energy from the picture. And I would kind of nail it. And then I would say to friends, like, if anybody's open to it, if you'll just give me their first name and their phone number so we can text and set up a time. I don't want to know a last name. I don't want to find them on Facebook. Like, I want to make sure that I have no way of cheating, and I'll just get on the phone with them and talk for an hour. And I was like doing well. So people were having great responses to the work. And as you know, the way that we started working was just, it was doing an energy clearing, but I didn't have a word for it then. Yeah. So like, I was just saying what I felt about someone's energetic vibe, right? So I didn't need to be on Zoom. I didn't need to see them. I didn't need to be in the room with them. And for me, in fact, being in the room was a bigger distraction. It was almost like overwhelming. Like I couldn't get a clear sense the same way as I do when we're on Zoom. And that sort of allowed me the freedom of, feeling safe and snugly in my own home. So I knew that like I was safe and I was comfortable, and I didn't have anybody in my space, because I did that for a while in the beginning and was not a fan of that.
Mhm.
And I just started reading what was going on for people. And I realized that I was feeling where things were stuck in their body, energetically and physically. And then I don't even really know how to put words to this, but it's like I get this knowing and this sense of what the emotional piece is to it. And
Yeah.
I still, frankly, like when I'm talking about it, I still question, how could this be real? But I've done so many of these now that I know intellectually it's real. But it's like I can feel and I can put words to the thing that's been stuck in your body that you haven't been able to identify because it's been there for so long. Does that make sense so far?
Completely. And I guess that's where you get your confidence just shines through, because people could be skeptical, right? Like how is this real? Or okay, we're doing this through Zoom. So what do you tell people when they like, I know we touched on it right now with Zoom, but how do you explain to them that through Zoom it will work?
It's so hard. And frankly, I get it, because if I were going to somebody, like it's fun going in person and being in person. And I completely get all of that. The way that I explain that it works is that we know scientifically through physics, and I don't really remember that much of physics, but we know that energy knows no time and space. There is no start and stop to energy. So if there's no time and space in energy, it doesn't matter if I'm looking at you through the computer, because I'm still seeing and feeling you the same as if you were in the room with me. The reality is, though, if you're in the room with me, now I'm thinking, is she comfortable? Is it too hot? Am I hot because I'm nervous? Does she want water? Does she actually need to go to the bathroom and isn't saying anything to me? I kind of want to go to the bathroom, right? Like there's all this weirdness that happens when we're in the same space.
Yeah.
And because I've tested it enough, and frankly, I was doing it on Zoom way before COVID. Like I've never done energy edits in person with somebody. It's so uncomfortable to me, because in an edit, I'm asking you to get so vulnerable and so deep and so personal and go back into like the trenches of childhood, that it's not that I don't want to be in the room with you, but I don't belong in the room with you,
Mhm.
right? Like when you're in bed and in your own space and I'm not there, you're not feeling my energy and you can just do your work. And yet I can sit and be present with you. But it is a big, it's a question that I get asked often of like, well, what if I'm in Chicago? Then can I come see you?
Mm.
And I still say, give me one session and you'll see why.
Yeah.
Like, just trust me here. It's going to be better this way.
Yeah. I mean, we've never met and it's been 4 years
Isn't that crazy that we've never met?
in
It's so
person, but
yeah. Yeah. I've never gotten to hug you yet.
I know soon
Yeah.
in Chicago,
Yeah.
but we won't do a session though. Don't worry. Um, so the moment when did you always know you had this gift, or was it like in a pattern of like as you were learning and things were falling into place for you?
So both. I can't remember what year, but after I met with Steph in Park City, who has now become like a soul sister of mine, um, I kept doing different trainings and different modalities because I still didn't quite have the confidence to just figure out what a session with Lizzie Cutler would look like. And it felt like at that time, I was able to point out where someone had a flaw, but not help them figure out how to fix it. And that felt really shitty to me. It felt like I had to have a solution without just saying like, wow, your heart chakra's closed up and you've got walls around there and good luck, sis. So I did a bunch of different trainings and kind of cherry picked what worked and what worked with my gifts and what didn't. And in that work, in all those trainings, I learned a lot about what happens. I had like a very all-American childhood. I didn't go through severe trauma. I didn't, I'm trying to say this all nicely.
Mhm.
My parents were good parents and they showed up in great ways. And I still experienced some shit that didn't feel good. So in working through my own stuff, I did a lot of therapy when I was getting divorced. And I learned that certain children have different parts of our brains that are bigger, not a bigger brain like we're smarter, but certain parts of our brain create more empathy. We feel more than other people. And by feeling more, I think I have that thing in my brain. I actually think you do too. And by feeling more, when I walk into a room, I can feel who feels safe and who doesn't. And that was why it was developed for me, right? It was like, it was a defense mechanism. It was something that my little girl needed to do to feel safe. I needed to be able to take the temperature of everyone in the room to see what they were feeling and how they felt, and then chameleon myself into what I thought they wanted of me. And that was what my little girl taught myself on how to be. And I think, I'm pretty positive that escalated into, like, because of then the meditation and the mindfulness and the yoga and all of the insight and all the self-awareness and work that I did, I feel like it grew and developed into this thing that I'm now able to do, but I never understood that everybody wasn't doing it.
That's great.
So
Oh,
I
wow.
feel like, yeah, I feel like the answer is kind of yes. And I think we're all empaths. Like I hear people say, I'm such an empath. I think we're all fucking empaths. I think we all can walk into a room with someone's back to us and feel if they're in a good mood and if it's safe or not, right? We all read energy. I think I am getting quiet enough and aware enough to put words to the energy that we're all feeling. And by putting words to it, then I can help you change it. So it's like the awareness of it helps us then shift it. And that to me, like, yeah, I've totally done that since I was a little girl, probably and possibly to my detriment. And, now I've used it to helping people. So maybe it's okay.
I had a no, it's really okay. Trust me, because I think, somewhat more sane ever since we started.
Thank you.
So thank you. I was thinking about this, like, we come to you. I mean, I'll speak personally. I come to you when I'm have been in my worst moments or struggling with A, B, or C. What gets you most excited about, it's hard. It's hard to like exchange and like open up and everything. What gets you most excited about working with clients who come asking you for help?
That's an awesome question. I think that, so two things. One, I think that I draw in the clients that I am a vibrational match to.
Mhm.
And so 99.9% of the clients I draw in are people that I would be friends with outside of this. And whether I know them well or it's my first time meeting them, they're women that I respect and want to hear their story and care about what's going on. And then it's like, that's what gets me there.
Mhm.
And then I stay because I'm literally watching a transition happen. So I'm watching these really incredibly powerful women go from not fully in their power. So something from their childhood or something from their past, holding them small, keeping them a little bit stuck. And it's like, I'm watching the cocoon transition of like the caterpillar breaking out of the cocoon and starting to fly, and getting to be witness to that is unbelievable. It's like the coolest, most amazing gift. And people actually ask a lot, like, are you exhausted after a session? And when I do group sessions and stuff like that, I'm so jacked up on energy when I'm done because I so love what I'm doing that really the thing that gets me tired is like, if I have 3 sessions in a row and it's 6 hours of sitting, it's the sitting that gets me tired. But the engaging with people is amazing. And I love it. And like the other week I did a group energy edit and there were 200 women on there live. And I didn't sleep for hours because it was just like, I was on such a high. It felt so good. It feels so fulfilling for me to know that we're creating impact, to know that things are shifting. And really what I'm thinking about is like, the trickle down of it. Like you're not only clearing shit, you, Tony, are not only clearing shit for you and your future, but you're clearing past stuff too. Again, if energy knows no time and space, you're clearing the future and the past. So the impact that it's having is so massive. And I'm just witnessing it and I'm holding space for it. So it, you know, people will say like, you saved my life. And I'm like, no, I watched you save your own life. I gave you an opportunity and I showed you the things that I know to do, but you showed up and you did the work. And frankly, like you've truly done a lot of work. And so to watch that and to be witness to that is amazing. I mean, you know,
it's even as a client, I mean, it's amazing to see it within your own self. Like situations will come, right? And how you react, respond. And I'm like, oh my God, I did, or I reacted different, you know, or the way you approach things. So it's a two-way thing. And like people are like, well, is it just like 6 sessions? Is it like 10? And it's like, you keep going, because I feel like you keep evolving and keep going, and you're never like, is the right word fixed? Because like I don't feel like I can't say no to you. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we continue. I want to keep going. Because like it's evolving.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that I certainly have clients that I've done 6 sessions with and they've shifted something huge, and then they're good and they might keep applying that to different parts of their life. And then I have people that keep going because we love the work, right? Like I love diving in and getting introspective and figuring out what's going on. And is there any other piece that's stuck? And frankly, I actually think that's a killer question of, is the word fixed? And that, you know, we're not broken. Like we're not broken beings. We get stuck. And then the idea is to get unstuck and then go live your life and bump around, and maybe you get a little bit stuck again, and then we get you unstuck. And it's just another layer to look at and a deeper piece to get into. But it's taken me a minute, but I've definitely shifted out of, there's something wrong with me. There's something broken in me. And once I fix that thing that's broken, then I'll be okay. Like I've fully deleted that programming and replaced it with, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And the idea of being in a human body is to fumble around and gather information. And when the contentious moments come up, when the challenges come up, to dig into like, ooh, this is very human. This is very, right? Like even today coming on here, I was like, I don't look good and my hair is frizzy and I don't know how to do makeup and my lighting isn't right. And like, that's all so human, right? It's so good. It's so juicy. Like I'm writing that shit down so that the next time I do my edits, I can look at, what is it that I still believe I need to do? What do I need to look like? Right? Like, what am I telling myself about that? So it's not that I've ever felt like I was done. I felt like now I don't get as stuck. And I don't get as deep in the mud. And I've actually heard you say that too, that like, you don't get as deep in the spiral.
Yep. I was going to say that like from here to here, you know, and like this, like, okay, step away. And that's, you know, and that's what's huge about what you do, I think as well. Like whether, I know it has to be a two-way thing, right? We got to be open and believe, but like, even if you have someone that's skeptical at first, to have somebody just listen, not judge, understand, and like, gosh, like it's huge and it's life-changing. And even if that's the shift, the beginning of a shift, or what they get out of it, like, 2017, I was in my worst, and you were just, I mean, through that, you were just listening, and my life has changed exponentially. Good, bad, everything has, like, we've had waves, but like you've been through all of it. And like when I'm at my worst, just to have someone there, not judge, man, and just be real and hopeful, and like it's awesome. So thank you.
So I do also want to add the difference between this and therapy, because I feel like a lot of my friends, understandably, like insurance covers therapy, so they go to therapy. And to me, therapy was absolutely critical in helping me understand the players and the parts and have words to put to maybe labels for better or worse, but to understand like what the relationships were and what was going on and to break it all down. It didn't necessarily change anything for me though. So it was like, I understand this is the dynamic in that relationship, but I still trigger every time this person opens their mouth and I can't breathe and I'm, anxious before I walk in the door, or I see that number on my phone and I'm like pissed before I even say hello. And to me, energy work helped because it released the old connection to the childhood program.
Yeah.
And I think like that's one of the biggest things that I've seen for you as well.
Well, yeah, because when we talk, you're very particular with some words that I may say, and then I stop, and then I'm like, no, and then you're like, no, keep going, keep going. You push things that I would just maybe not open up as much with a psychologist or something like that. You know what I mean? It's totally different. You're more detailed and intricate into how I say things, what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the beauty of me not being a therapist is that I'm not restricted and I don't have their rules to follow. Right. So I don't have to, again, I have no disrespect for therapy, and therapy helped me exponentially through my divorce. I would not have survived. And frankly, I still stay in touch with my therapist. And if shit hits the fan and I need someone, like there's nothing better than knowing she knows all the background and all the players and all of that. But to me, the energy work is different in getting to that deeper layer of what is creating fight or flight, what's triggering my fight, flight, freeze, and why and how, and understanding it so that when it comes up, I don't have to spiral out for 3 days or for 2 weeks, and I can recognize it and giggle at it and move on. So it's like I'm free from the trauma, free from the bullshit of it. And that was like game changing.
For sure.
So yeah, it doesn't need to go more than 6 sessions. And to your point, it's not that we're ever done. It's just about looking at contrast as it comes up. And I think that's kind of the key.
I like that.
Yeah. I feel like I've answered all of it now.
I think so. But I mean,
Is there anything else that people have asked that we can think of? How about this? If you're listening to this and you can think of another question, I have challenged myself to be better on Instagram, and I am totally happy to do one of those Ask Me Anything. So if you send me a question, I will answer it. And if you just email me a question, we can hop on the phone and I'm always happy to answer it. But that's my story. So I've been, on a personal note, I've been single since 2014, officially divorced, living in Chicago, doing my do. I don't teach yoga anymore. I do this energy work full time now. And the energy clearings I learned how to do while I was doing all of that, like trials and tribulations. I also was working a lot with plant medicines and the plants, and sort of being in ceremony amplified, showing me like, you've been doing this, you can clear the room, here's how. And I have other videos where I go through all the details of what's happening for me in an energy clearing. And I think that's all I've got. Feel free to ask me anything else that I forgot. Tony, this was way easier talking to you than a blank screen.
Oh,
appreciate it. And thank you guys. Hope to see you, and feel free to reach out for a phone call. Thank you.